Ben Gillenwater, how are you?
Great, Matt. Yeah, thanks, man.
Listen, we've been chatting for like a while here. I am really excited about finally having this conversation that we've
Yeah.
been, working towards.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers, sir. Oh, dude, the tea. Shout out to Harney and Sons Tea. If Harney and Sons hears this, please sponsor me.
Right.
You don't even have to send me money, just send me tea. This was a tea back in my former life as an SAT tutor. I had a classroom. And in my classroom, I had the biggest pantry you've ever seen. It was like an entire wall of stuff. Because this is 16, 17-year-olds, right? So I'd have all the trash that they never got home. I'd have like cup of noodles. I had a freezer full of like frozen waffles and burritos and stuff, all of this stuff. And I had Harney and Son tea, right? All this tea. And I had like mochas and instant coffees and things. And, I would always ask them like, hey, you want a cup of tea? And they're like, tea? No. Like that's really, and I'm
Sounds
like,
boring.
right. And I'd let them smell the like Earl Grey or something, or they have one called the Tower of London. And literally kids would be like, oh my God, that smells amazing. I'm like, I know, you want a tea now?
Yes.
So that's Harney and Sons is always the best transition to tea.
I like it.
Yeah, it's
Appreciate
good. So look, you and I got connected because we are both going after the same thing, which is trying to help people, parents in particular, understand how to protect their families from tech.
Yes.
Talk to me about this.
Yes, man. So, yeah, so I call myself the family IT guy for this very reason, because this is my whole mission is to help families protect their kids from the dangers of tech. Because tech, you have like anything powerful, you have a full spectrum of wonderful to terrible and everything in between. Sure. So how do we identify the terrible stuff, and then what do you do about it? And then how do you embrace the wonderful stuff so that the kids can be prepared for the future? And so I've been in the tech industry for 30 years. I worked with the NSA. I was the chief technologist of a $10 billion IT company. I know how tech works from top to bottom. I've built global scale systems. I've seen it and touched it at all different levels. And so I have a 9-year-old kid, and being a dad exposed me to this crossover or this intersection of parenting and tech. And it's the classic story of, I gave him an iPad when he was 5 that had YouTube on it because I didn't know.
Because you didn't know.
And then I knew quickly that was a mistake. And it's, okay, let's take YouTube off, and we'll put the one that's called YouTube Kids because it says kids. And at the time, the CEO of YouTube was a grandma, like literally a grandmother. And so I'm like, okay, sure, YouTube Kids. Dude, he found nightmare stuff. He found superheroes having sex with each other, like not kids, just.
There's some Tomb Raider, Lara Croft stuff on there, I'm sure.
Gotta be. Took off the YouTube Kids. Man, long story short, we had to take the whole iPad away. The entire device was just addicting him. It was affecting his sleep patterns. It was affecting how much he wanted to go outside. He just wanted to be in that screen. Because once we stripped off the YouTube stuff, then we still had like kid-friendly games, but they were just so like pulling at him. So we took away the iPad. Now he just has like a watch that's a phone, and like it's all locked. It's an Apple Watch, and I just got it fully locked down. Like even like he can't even call anybody but the pre-approved list that we have on there.
Yeah, we have similar tech for my boys. I have 3 boys, 8, 11, and 13, and they have we have the Gizmo watches. I think they were a little bit cheaper than Apple Watches. And,
but similar idea.
Similar idea. And you got to get the Gizmo app, and they can voice text you, so they can send you a voice memo, and then they can't even type completely on it, but they can put like the poop emoji and stuff. Yeah, so like, of course they think it's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, like I need a function. I don't need everything else that comes with it. I don't need my kid to become a marketing mechanism. I don't need him to become the product for marketers, which is exactly what happens.
Yeah, right. And that's a good thing to talk about and to focus on too, is the marketing aspect, right? So the internet is primarily driven by marketing.
Yes.
The reason that things are free is because those things are monetized one way or another via marketing. And so, if you expose a kid to a marketing device, there's dangers inherent in that, and that's where like everybody's talks about the algorithms, right? And like the job of most algorithms that we're exposed to and that our kids are exposed to are to maximize marketing outcomes, not to maximize child outcomes.
Right.
It's like, how many dollars can you spend kind of a thing, or how many dollars can you get your parents to spend?
And that was the whole, I mean, McAfee really revolutionized this when they brought out their product there, because and you were a professional during this time, but the original industry standard when we had virus and virus protection software was to sell the virus protection software to somebody, right? You're going to sell this and like you make money at the purchase and that's it. And McAfee, classically was like, no, give it away for free. Give it away. And all of a sudden people were like, give it away for free. What do you mean? And he was the original, like, purchase upgrade, which is like, we get you working on this, but if you want the premium membership, right? And this was really, really revolutionary in like the late 90s and early 2000s. It wasn't a mechanism that worked. Pretty soon thereafter, you had, once the apps got created, that business model transitioned from where I tell my boys, like back in the day when we had Super Nintendo or you had, N64 or whatever it was, you had to purchase a game and they made money at the original purchase and then never again.
Right.
That's it. You have Duck Hunt and that's it. You have whatever, like you're never buying Duck Hunt again. And we transitioned away from that. Some of the first really successful apps were like Candy Crush. And there was that one they got Arnold Schwarzenegger to do one of the commercials. It was like a war commercial game.
Those are huge.
Huge. And the entire model of those was like McAfee, which is give this away.
Yeah.
And then charge for in-app purchases and upgrades. Same thing with Fortnite. One of the most popular games worldwide, and it was free to get Fortnite. But man, you want that slick skin? It's $2.95.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the mechanism of marketing that has been unleashed onto children, which is let's give them all these things for free.
Yeah.
Let's let them get the game for free, and then get 99 cents from them for this thing.
Right. Today and tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the thing, man, is like, we're all used to that as adults. And then now our kids by default are being exposed to it from birth.
Right.
In some way or another. And the thing that struck me, and the reason I'm sitting here with you today, and the reason I'm doing this family IT guy thing, is because I found that it's very difficult for me. And I am literally an expert. Like, sure, there's lots of people that are smarter than me that know more about computer systems, but I know a lot about this stuff and it's super hard, so I can definitely like that strikes me as like, well, if it's hard for me, how hard is it for my friends and my family and my community and the bigger, like everybody on earth that like isn't an expert? Like, do you have to have an IT degree to be a parent? Like I in some respect, currently the answer is sort of yes. And then if you don't, then like, what the heck are you supposed to do? And that's my mission, is to fill that gap. But it's hard, man. It's really hard, and I think there's a lot of different ways to approach and discuss the problems. And there's a lot of different ways to approach and discuss the solutions involved, And so I thought maybe today we could start off by talking a little bit about like what some of the problems are.
I love that. And again, the session is, I just got a text message from one of the senators. It sounds like today is going to be the last day of the session. And we were running a bill. We ran a bill, it made it through the Senate, and then it died in the House Ed Committee by one vote, which killed me. But the bill was focused on, it's called the PTA bill, Parent Tech Awareness Bill. And our school systems are distributing in Idaho and across the country, but in the Idaho school systems, which are the only ones I care about, they are distributing internet-based technology, one-on-one devices all over the place. Hundreds of thousands of devices go out every single year to students. And we have actual knowledge of crimes against children off of these devices. They're sitting in Ada County Sheriff right now.
It's common.
It's very common. It's very common. And they know it's happening. And there's no obligation for the school districts to warn parents. I was telling a parent about it this morning. She's like, that can't be true. I'm like, call the sheriff right now.
Yeah.
This is true. And we were running a bill to just say, look, if you can do this. We can have risky things with children. We can teach kids how to drive. We can teach them how to shoot firearms. Like, we can teach them how to do these risky things.
Yeah.
But you got to warn parents first.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. At the heart of the solution, at least in my mind, and it seems like from you, it's like, listen, parents are now and always will be the primary protection mechanism for their children. And if they don't know, if they're not educated about how to keep their kids safe, then the primary education mechanism will be faulty. We must integrate parental education and awareness around this if we are to protect our future generations.
Yes, dude, that's exactly, yes. And that's why I'm here. Like, that is why I do what I do. This my mission in life is just that. I agree 100%. And how are we supposed to set the example as parents if we don't know?
Right.
Even for ourselves. And so I also find that there's, like, where do you start? If you don't have an IT degree, even if you do, where do you start? Which problem do you focus on and in which order? I've spent a lot of my life in the security business. It's the profession of assessing risk and then managing the risk within the confines of your capabilities and your budget.
100%.
And so you must first identify what that is, you know? And so I have identified 2 very specific risks that when I give lectures and I talk to people, so I do like kind of a local thing where I'll go to libraries and schools and stuff. There's 2 things: algorithms, AKA social media, or I refer to them as addictive algorithms.
Sure.
And secondly is anonymous online chat. Those 2 things, if a parent focuses on nothing else, those 2 things will be a huge win. Addictive algorithms, AKA social media, and anonymous online chat. So the addictive algorithm thing is exposing your kid to drugs. At what age do you find it appropriate for them to be addicted to a drug? That's the age at which they should have social media. Perhaps that's when they become an adult. Perhaps that's, whatever. Every family will approach it differently. And I'll get into the why on some of this too.
And to be clear, that drug could be many things. It could be online pornography. It could be watching video games. It could be, whatever I was sharing with you. Like, I got this thing with watching like street food and nasty food, like people in Africa. It's my new thing. Apparently the algorithm found this new one. They're like, oh, he likes this one even more.
He likes
the Bushman in front of a giant steel wok eating like some intestine in a giant bubbling pot. I'm like, oh my God, I can't look away. It's
too good.
It's wild. It's like, it's very interesting to see that they found something. It's like, oh, they scratched this itch that I would never think. So it's curious to me, but I could watch that stuff all day. Like, it's wild to me. But again, the addiction becomes one, like, you have a myriad of things, and you have people that are not like, you've had knee injuries. I've had knee injuries. I've gotten pain pills before. I can manage myself with a pain pill that could lead to like mass addiction. But when do you want to expose your kid to those things, right? When do you want to expose them to pornography? When do you want to expose them to, an algorithm that's going to find an itch and it's going to scratch it and they don't even know what's happening? That's the level, like this dark level of it will learn you more than you know you, 100%. And it'll keep going.
100%. And, I think so I've kind of bucketed the short version of the way I address how to like handle these things is I've created these sort of 3 buckets of thought for myself. Avoid dangerous content, limit screen time, and avoid strangers, like contact with strangers. And so those 3 things, if you look at those as like, what do I do about the addictive algorithms and the anonymous online chat, like that's and so we'll get into the details of that too as we go through the conversation here. But I want to highlight one very important thing, and that I find myself to take a fairly extreme approach in that my opinion is that kids, young people, I'll say, because not just kids, young people, specifically ages 10 to 24, those that have yet to have frontal lobe development. Yep. I stumbled across a very alarming set of data. I was looking up statistics for one of my lectures of like, okay, these are the harms that are occurring to children of all these different types. We have all these mental health problems and physical safety problems and sextortion and all this kind of stuff. So I started scouring through the CDC and the World Health Organization's databases on death certificates. And interestingly, both entities have open databases where they take death certificates analyze what's on them, like cause of death, time
sure.
of death, age, all these things, and they publish it. And they don't publish the name of the person, but they allow you to look at this aggregated data set. I found out, sort of stumbled across, that as of 2021, this was the most recent data in this World Health Organization database I looked at. The number 2 cause of death for people aged 10 to 24 is suicide. And that, I ran the data set all the way back to 1951. That's the oldest data you can get. And I'll send you a chart that we can put up on the screen if you want.
I'd love that.
And I have it on my website. I have a article called Digital Danger Zone where the charts are in there. And you can see a graph over time with different age groups of 5-year age groups, like 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and so on. The 3 age groups between 10 to 24 went from, in the 50s, roughly 1 in 100 deaths in those age groups was related to self-inflicted death. In 2021, it was 1 in 5. Like, that changed my entire perspective on this conversation. I actually have given lectures in the past where I've been moderate about, if you're going to give your kids social media, you can apply controls. TikTok has parental controls. Facebook has parental controls. Instagram has parental controls. You can do things. And, yes, kids, we can't hide in the dark. We should expose our kids to things carefully over time. And there's tools that allow you to do that. And then I found out that on that same chart, I plotted out of curiosity. I'm like, what does this correlate to? Because the chart, the lines stayed fairly horizontal until about 2010, 2012. And then they went like that. And that's when the internet became more popular on mobile phones.
Yeah. That's when all of the apps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Facebook started in 2007, but it was on the desktop.
Right.
2010 to 2012, it was on mobile. Instagram came out, the iPhone came out. Eventually, the iPhone had the App Store. Of course, this is on Android too. TikTok came out, I think, in 2016. There was another bump in the line. It got up to 1 in 5. 1 in 5 children, young people, are committing suicide
Of
deaths that occur.
Deaths. Right.
Okay, so back
And to be clear, just use the 1 in 100 in 1950.
Yeah.
Now we're at 20 in 100.
Yes.
Out of 100 deaths, you have a 20x.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, through the 60s, a lot of turmoil in the 60s.
Yep.
Through the 70s, through the 80s, you got hyperinflation, tough job markets. Through the 90s, Kurt Cobain, the whole thing.
Yep.
No. We're holding steady all the way until right around the late 2000s.
Dude, the graph went up and to the right in a very obvious way. People go like, correlation is not causation. I totally get that.
Sure.
Just
tell me what else, like something caused it, right?
Yes.
What else does it correlate to? Because again, let's just figure this out.
Right.
Like, did we have an increase in, suicide across the board, including people that don't have internet connectivity? Did something happen in the air? Like, was it like crimes,
Right.
like all these different things?
Yeah.
Is there a correlation between, anyway, yeah, we could go down that statistic rabbit hole.
So if we go back to assessing risk, we have to first identify the risk. So the other thing I learned during perusing this data was that the top 3 causes of death for these age groups are accidents, primarily automotive accidents, suicide. Darn it, what was the third one? Oh, homicide. Amongst boys and girls, both. 1, 2, 3. Automotive accidents, suicide, homicide. Boys have the numbers on the homicide thing are higher for boys, but girls is also number 3. So I'm laughing, but just because I didn't expect that.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm a parent. I now know, so my son is 9, so he's just about in that age group. I now know, statistically speaking, which risks I need to manage. I need to make sure I don't get in a car accident. I need to be a safe driver. I need to have good tires. I need to have good brakes. I need, following distance, whatever, right? Okay. And then like when he was smaller, good car seat, that kind of thing. Okay, cool. That's covered. Now, what about number 2? Well, if I correlate back to the release of social media on smartphones, definitely not going to give him a smartphone with social media on it. And then if I look at the homicide thing, okay, firearm safety, how to use a knife safely, how to make sure that he doesn't have open access to things that could have dangerous outcomes of his young mind and taking crazy risks, which is what young boys do, right?
And make sure he doesn't hang out with a bunch of gangs.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so the conversation today is on the risk number 2. That's where my focus has been very drawn. And I'm no longer moderate in my opinion as to whether or not kids should have social media. I'm now very firm on the fact that it's a hard no. There's no benefit. The only benefit is a social drive to like, well, the football team communicates their practice schedule on Facebook or stuff like that, right? Well, we got to figure out a way to just do it where like, you know, either
old school, man.
Yeah. And you know what? Like if that team just like, if they require my kid to have social media, then I just got to make some hard decisions. And I have to include my kid in those decisions because he's going to just not appreciate that kind of stuff, you know? But then it's on me to help him understand that like whether you appreciate the risks or not, they're there. Like none of us like the fact that these risks exist. None of us like the fact that there are extreme dangers associated with exposing kids to tech.
And what I've found interesting in my journey with understanding these things as well is the 3 buckets that you were talking about: limit access, keep them away from strangers, and what was the third?
Dangerous content, screen time, and strangers.
Okay.
Contact with strangers.
Those things, parents know how to parent, right? Like parents know, for instance, Costco. Costco is not a risk-free arena, right? Like I would not send my 6-year-old alone into Costco for hours. I would not send my 6-year-old to the park with me removed for hours alone.
Yeah.
These are not risk-free arenas,
right.
But we know how to manage these because we've had cultural wisdom and practice distributed down through the ages. How do you manage marketplaces? How do you manage child-oriented play arenas? Like we know all of this stuff. So we train our children, and we have been trained how to manage children in these arenas. Stranger danger, right? Don't talk to strangers, right?
Yeah, don't give them your address.
Right.
Don't give them your phone number. Like all that kind of stuff.
Dangerous material. We worry about the books in our libraries, and we have great fights over them collectively as a society. Like we know how to argue about dangerous material. We also know how to limit access to things that take a disproportionate or an addictive bent. And like everybody. You don't let your kid just eat. I had a student years ago who was like a ravenous reader, and his parents literally had to take books away from him because he would stay up all night reading. He would like miss his homework, all these things. So they like really had to limit books. Now, like that's limiting access to something that's producing a worse behavior, right? We know how to do this.
There's moderation to be had
everywhere. Yeah. Right. The interesting thing is, all of these things that we know, like don't talk to that stranger. Like you're in Albertson, somebody talks to you, get the hell out of here. Don't talk to my 9-year-old, like your 10-year-old, get the hell out of here. We know all of this in the real world, but transitioning into the tech world, you fall into this, all bets are off. You no longer understand moderation. You no longer understand the depth of the dangerous material. You no longer consider the internet as this horrendous hotbed for people trying to come after children like you would a park. You would never let somebody wander off in a park with a kid wander off with a stranger. You always tell people, don't go for the candy. Somebody offering you candy. It's the exact same scams and mechanisms of manipulation in a park setting. You want to come see my dog? I have this great dog. What do you think happens on social media scams? They get a hook in talking about a dog, talking about a birthday, talking about these other things.
Yeah. Well, and there's this just horrible statistics around this sextortion thing. And for those that haven't heard the term, it's, fairly straightforward, I guess. It's a play on the word extortion, but it's using sexual material. It's gross to even say. It's using sexual materials that are gotten from kids.
Yeah.
And so people...
And then they extort them for, either more pictures, because those pictures can be monetized, right? So if you're a girl in particular, those are things that get sold on the black market, or they extort them for actual monetary gains, which is a much more popular thing or common thing with young men.
Yeah, dude, monetary gain, physical contact, self-harm, suicide. It's common because there's 6 billion people on the internet. 5 billion of them have access to social media. So all of a sudden, going to the park, you're exposed to the people that live nearby. Opening your phone and jumping on a platform where you have anonymous stranger contact, that park is full of 5 billion people.
Right.
And some of them, there's a percentage of people that are evil, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to think about it. There just is. There's people that do things that intentionally harm others. And people will pose, adults will pose as children. They will befriend children. They will then be dating. They'll solicit pictures, for example. They get the picture and they go, hey, now that I have your picture, I'm going to let you know that I'm actually an adult. And now I have you. And I've been researching all your stuff. I know all your family, all your friends. I've actually created a social media profile that looks just like yours. And I have all your people on there. And I'm going to ruin your life unless you do what I say. And that's where this stuff. And there's tens of thousands of cases a month on even just individual platforms like Roblox and Snapchat. There's estimates that there are 10,000 cases a month of sextortion on Snapchat.
And those are reported cases.
Reported cases. That's right.
And again, you're wandering into another point that needs to be understood, which is there is no safe social media usage.
Yeah,
for instance, I was chatting with Kristen Jensen from Protect Young Eyes, and she's taken up a charge. Mm-hmm. She has taken what I find very interesting about, because the work I've been doing is very parent facing, and she took a tact that did you teach your kid how to swim at an early age?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, actually.
Yeah, great.
Finally. Yeah.
And again, I come from a big swim background. My wife is a big, water person, and we had concerns when we started having babies. Like, how do we navigate? Do we teach them how to swim? How do we engage them? Because we had friends that had a pool in their backyard. We did not. And they engaged in the infant self-rescue programs.
Yeah, that's
right. So
cool,
this
man.
it's a wild time.
So
so you have like
watch.
It's so crazy. You have this like year-old kid or 16-month-old kid, and they throw the kid in the pool, fully clothed, and the kid is face down, and you even watching the videos, you lose your mind. You're like, oh my God. And then
it makes me physically react right now just thinking about it.
I know. But you see, and it's horrible to see, because they play it out with like the kid getting out of the house and then the kid going for a ball, and there's like a shot, there's a camera underneath the water, like watching the kid reach for the ball as he tips over into the pool. But then you see the kid engage in infant self-rescue. So he starts like rotating one of his legs, he flips over, stabilizes himself, and then he starts hollering. Like you see this all in this training video. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And what Kristen from Protect Young Eyes is, or Young Minds, has been working on is she's like, we need to teach people, young people, how to essentially self-rescue. So if you have a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old and an adult predator tries to engage them with something, they need to know, instead of being curious, they need to be like, oh, I know what's happening. Oh my gosh, we got to we got to get out of here. I got to go find an adult. I got to tell them what to do. Like I got to work on. So again, she engaged in this. If your kids are somewhere, she has a number of stories, a ton. She's been at it for over a decade. Of people going over to friends' houses, and then there was like the brother from college, or like older brother that was really troubled that was living with them, or like an uncle. So even though they're with somebody that you thought was safe, that person goes into an arena with an unsafe person, and that kid gets exposed to something bad. And then knows, boom, oh, wait, I got to get out of here because this is the thing. Like my mom warned me. And then they like run home to the mom and like, hey, help me. Like I need your, say. But again, all of these different things come up with regard to there is no safe social media usage, because there are plenty of instances, especially in sextortion, where somebody may be engaged in social media in the most innocent, innocuous way, where literally nothing compromising. They never sent a picture to anyone. They never did anything. They knew not to talk to strangers.
Yeah.
and somebody ripped their photos off of, say, Instagram, used an app like Cloth Off, and the AI generated removes clothing from somebody, and then that AI generated image is used to extort children.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, hey, nobody's going to know this isn't you, and I'm about to send this to everybody in your church group.
Yeah.
So this person has innocently engaged in social media, but has become a target, and people target them successfully.
Or the kid actually didn't engage at all, and the parents put the pictures up. And I say that recognizing that, like, we all do that.
Yep.
But the more and more that I work on this stuff, the more and more I realize that that's a problem. It can be. And I recognize while we're sitting here, we're identifying all these fears, right? We're identifying all these awful, dark things. But so I want to qualify that to say that there are ways to go about this whole process of using technology.
Yes.
There are answers, right? And so that's...
Talk to me. Let's focus on this.
Yes. So we can get into the positives a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because it's, this is heavy stuff, man. And like, I'm very keen on everybody parenting the way that they want to parent. And I love that. I respect that like we all have our own ways. And so if we, and that's why I focus on these two things, addictive algorithms and anonymous online chat. So that if you want your kid to use technology, right? So what to do about these things. And so like if we simply focus on the two things, avoiding addictive algorithms, AKA social media primarily, and avoiding contact with strangers. So first, let's identify what an algorithm looks like. So I want to show you something.
Okay.
I don't really use social media, but I have it on my phone so that I can know about it. So here's my Instagram account.
Taking back childhood from phones. Look at that.
Yeah. What do you know? I mean, that's the only thing that's on my social media is because that's my posts and things, right?
Yeah. And those are the things you're interested in.
Yeah. And so,
or at least
taking back, this is literally top of my feed. Very timely. So, in Instagram, let's say, for example, using them as an easy example, when you look through your feed, at the bottom of each post is a thing. So that top post was from a week ago. Right. That's not the most recent post. That's the post that Instagram
the most relevant.
thinks I want to see first.
Right.
The one below that is sponsored. The one below that is 3 days ago. The one below that is the Ranch podcast.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
23 hours ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do we
Which,
tell?
by the way, is not the most recent Ranch podcast.
Right.
Post, right? Like
Yeah.
I've done, I think, 2 today. There
Exactly.
you go.
So now Instagram, the reason I use Instagram is if you tap on the top, and everybody watching at home thinks, try this, take out Instagram, tap on the little Instagram logo at the top, and then tap on following. Now it's ordered by time. So this following feed is a time-based feed. It's not an algorithmic feed. And I use this to show the differences. 27 minutes ago, the first post. The one after that is 39 minutes ago. The one after that is 40 minutes ago. And then 40 minutes ago. And then 47 minutes ago.
These are definitely more boring than the first ones you showed me too, by the way.
Right? Like these.
It's not as engaging.
These are not.
It's
that's
just a
not as
headshot.
engaging.
No.
I've never heard of that guy.
Yeah, right.
He's on a channel that apparently I'm connected with. Then if I hit the home button and I go back, this is an algorithm. So if we're to manage the risks, we must identify them and assess them. And so how do you know what an algorithm is? It's something that is, for example, not sorted by time. So Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all these things, they're all, when you look at these now, from now on, look at these things and recognize algorithm should jump out as an algorithm. That means that that's dangerous for your kids. It is an addictive mechanism. One of the founders of Facebook has publicly given testimony on the fact that Facebook purposely, intentionally addicts kids on purpose, knowingly. I don't know how else to tell you. It's so mind-blowing to me.
The only purpose of the social media apps is to get one more second out of every single person using them forever. I had this funny thing a few months back. It was like, do you think there's ever a point when one of the algorithms or any of the companies are like, all right, that's the last post. That's good. We're good to go.
Yeah,
like we're
good,
done.
Man.
We don't
your
need any
eyeballs
more.
anymore.
It's like, there's never the last post. There's never
Right.
the last minute.
Yeah.
There's never the last day. It's no, more.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I mentioned YouTube Kids, algorithmic. YouTube, algorithmic.
Right.
It's showing you the stuff you want to see because they're in the business of attention.
Right. Now, and to be clear, what you want to see is not things that necessarily are good for you or make you happy, because wanting
Yes.
is a different thing in this case.
Yes.
Because wanting is a reactionary response, right?
Yeah.
Wanting is, I can get their behavior to act, and I can get them to stay on longer if I show them this, even though the things they're showing you might be really distressing. And everybody knows this because we all rubberneck. Like, you wouldn't say, I want to see a car wreck with a
Right.
dead body.
Right.
You don't want to see that, but you'll slow down and look to the left. Oh no.
You're right. Your brain will do that even if you're like, why am I looking at that? Come
Right.
on, yeah.
So wanting is a different word when we're dealing
Yeah.
with an algorithm.
This is a chemical, this is an internal, this is a dopamine drip.
Yep.
Right. So like these companies, all the major software companies that have algorithmic products employ psychologists to work with the engineers to maximize the effect of the dopamine trip.
Right.
Like this is what they do. And so if I love looking at the incentives of others, and do those incentives match mine as an individual or as a parent, or do they match the incentives of my kid and his future? And there's a massive gap when you look at these kind of systems. They obviously do not match in terms of incentives. And it brings me to think about one of our most important currencies as humans is attention. Where do we give and spend our attention? And what takes our attention? So like looking at the car wreck, that takes our attention in a very different way than social media does. But addictive algorithms are literally meant to take as much attention as they can. They are maximizing the effect of attention theft. Theft is a weird word to use, but I'll use that because I'm.
It's better to say life theft.
Yeah, yeah, because like you have time and you have attention. Like these are these inherent currencies. And when you think about it that way, when I think about it that way, it helps me focus. Like, okay, where do I want to give my attention, right? I want to give my attention to my family. I want to give my attention to myself. I want to give my attention to my work, whatever it might be. I definitely don't want to give it to a marketing algorithm because it doesn't share my incentives. We're not after the same things.
And from a parent standpoint, do you want to give your children to a marketing algorithm?
Right.
That was one of the most painful realizations as I was ripping the iPads out of my kids' hands a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, I sold them out to this company who doesn't give a squat about them.
Right.
I gave them away. I gave my children to these people. And man, that was a really hard weekend to like reconcile that and then sit down with my kids.
Yeah.
They took it well, but it's like, hey, it's over. You guys are not getting these. And like, we'll replace it with whatever you want, meaning like experience. We'll replace it with hunting. We'll replace it with cooking. We'll replace it with building. We'll replace it with, archery, whatever you want. We'll build a life that you say, hey, I would like this in my life. That's fine. But that life is not going to include these things.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, I almost appreciate the fact that the problems are so extreme.
Yeah.
Because with extreme problems, they can scream out and say, hey, you should pay attention to me. And they're educational opportunities.
Right.
And the more extreme the problem is, the more easy it is for a child to digest. Right? Like where there is fine nuance and like fine detail and little gray areas, the younger the kid, the harder it is to digest.
Why can't I have 2 scoops of ice cream
Right.
instead of 1? I'm already having the ice cream.
You're like,
and
look,
blah,
there's
blah, blah.
ingredients and there's chemical science and there's all
But
this
they
stuff.
were
right?
small scoops. And like, damn it.
But like there's these massive problems. The addictive algorithm thing is such a massive problem, and the way it correlates on that suicide chart is like it's actually amazing because it's obvious. It becomes obvious. I'm not like placed like, hey, this should be obvious to everybody, because it's not. I didn't know, right, until I looked at the data. But it becomes obvious when you see it, and then you go, oh, amazing. Now I know what to avoid. That giant thing
Right.
that's organized on my phone to get my attention. That's not based on time. It's based on attention. And so what do you do? So, okay, so you avoid algorithms. You become aware of where your attention is being taken and where your attention is being given. And you can lead by example in doing that. And that, I think, is very difficult. Very, very difficult. Because of the 5 billion people in the world that are on social media, that means there's 5 billion people consuming this drug, the dopamine drug, right? And like drip, drip, drip. The guy in Africa with the giant walk and the animal head and the liver and all the things, he's on social media.
Right. That's what always kills me. I always come back to like, who the hell is videoing this guy?
Who's filming him?
There was a video that popped up. This must have been the origin of it. African lady who was smearing cow dung across her floor. And she was talking about, she's like, we essentially culture our floors every 6 months. It helps us keep like insects out and some other things. And she's sitting there in her hands, like she's literally just, rubbing this in, all that, explaining this. And I was like, wild. And the number one thing that I thought was, I was like, she's got this microphone attached to her shirt. She has the same mic. I was like, who's filming this? She's rubbing dung on the floor.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's such
it's a Bushman with the liver.
Dude, and the connectivity there.
Yeah.
We would never get to see these people or so much as send them a message. Like you can message that guy. So that's why it's hard, right? It's literally addictive, and it can be fun, and it can be interesting, and it can be entertaining, and all the things, which is why we all do it. And so I've had to very intentionally step back in a big way from having my attention taken by these things. I run my phone with no notifications. I run it with a black and white screen. I do not use social media. We actually take one day a week off as a family together where we disconnect completely. Every Sunday, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, there is no outside world. Like it's just us.
I do Saturday night to Sunday night.
Dude, even bet. That's amazing.
Yeah, because if you don't, you'll lose that night with your significant other. Right? When the sun goes down, boom, off. And if I haven't, again, I carry around my trail guide to make sure if I have any ideas or concerns, I write them down. And I have my wife kindly check my phone to make sure there's no emergencies so I can put that monster to rest.
Yeah.
And I'll check hers if she needs me to. But then it's like you go through.
Yeah.
You just go through your day and it's like, this is how the rest of the world lives.
Well, so I've configured, and it sounds like you have as well, I've configured my phone to be a tool and not a toy. And I can therefore demonstrate to my son how to use the tech that he comes across as a tool and not a toy. Tech for kids should not be a toy. Right now there's games, and you could say, okay, and that's where we get into the avoiding stranger contact. You have a lot of games that are like internet connected, but you have a lot of games that are not internet connected. Okay, fine. There is gray area there to be had. Like I'm less extreme there, right? Like I think games take place on screens with keyboards and joypads and whatever, right? Like, but they're not algorithmic, and as long as they don't have anonymous stranger contact, and anonymous, what's called user-generated content.
Yeah.
So like Roblox.
And to this point, before we go off, I very much like video games. Like growing up, I loved strategy games. I loved first-person shooters, and I listened to a TED Talk a long time ago when that was like before podcasts were a giant thing, like you could get the TED app and everything. And I listened to this wonderful TED Talk that this guy was talking about trying to snag the benefits of video games without having the first person shooter blood and guts and the whole thing. And what he said is that they tested a bunch of people, and they're like, okay, we had this experiment where you have like a pink ball and then, a blue ball, right? And the balls move around and the pink ball turns blue, and you got to track which of the balls was pink at the end. Cool. And you're like, okay, it was that one.
Yeah.
And they're like, we added on more and more and more balls until the person couldn't track them. And it might go up to 5 balls or something. And then you can't track more. And then they do more than one ball is pink. So then you have 2 balls that are pink and 1 ball that's blue, and then they all turn blue, and you got to track which 2. Right?
Yeah.
So they ran this thing, and then they forced people to play first-person shooters for like 6 weeks, like an hour a day at least or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you had people that were not playing Halo and everything on a regular basis, and they start playing. And at the end of 6 weeks, they had like 10x their multiple object tracking capacity, so they could juggle a lot of things at once. And it also played out with cognitive tasks. They could multitask more efficiently and more successfully.
Yeah.
And he's like, the problem is we had to make them play this dumb video game, and like they don't want to play the video game, and the people that want to play the video game get this benefit, but then they get addicted to like playing Halo or Call of Duty. So how do we harness the value of this? I heard that years ago. It's like, I remember having these like we'd have 24-hour landline parties where people would bring their towers, the computers, fun, and the 20-pound monitor, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And somebody came in, like one of our, we were kind of tech kids. So like we'd figure out how to network all of our, 486s and Pentiums and then play StarCraft or other, civilization games, essentially strategy games where we're building up armies. And we do them for like 24 hours. It was over the summer. It's like, let's just get together. We're drinking, messing around, like we're eating, food and playing video games and just going hard. Right. Yeah. And I can distinctly remember developing the capacity to juggle many things at once through these really extreme, essentially training programs of like, you have to track a lot of different movements and a strategy, and in all this chaos, see your plan through. Yeah. There is great benefit and great joy. I mean, these are some of my fondest memories from like my teen years, right? There is great benefit and joy there, but in the absence of, if you have an inability to turn it off, that's where it's like, okay, you don't get the rose without the thorn. Like, you got to be able to turn this off.
Yes. And you have to find moderation and stuff. Yeah. And really, I think I just identify, like, look at the game. Does it have, there's 2 things, right? There's the anonymous chat. That is where sextortion happens. There's these like massive numbers, right? That's where it happens. Like it's got its pros and its cons, but the cons are pretty serious.
I don't think anonymous chats have pros.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go out on a limb. There's nothing that will benefit a child by talking to somebody anonymously on Roblox, on Minecraft, on Fortnite.
I think in terms of benefit, you're correct. There's like benefit. It's just like fun, like if you're chatting with another kid that isn't an a-hole. But
you're not chatting with another kid. You don't even know if you're chatting with another kid.
Exactly.
It is fun to meet another person at the park and run around and talk with them at the park. And we think that's the same thing that you're doing when you chat with somebody on Roblox.
It feels the same.
It feels the same. It is not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful point. And that's why that's one of those like 2 things to focus on, is it's just the risks are enormous. And then so using Roblox as an example, okay, you can disable the chat functions in Roblox via the parental controls. But the premise of the game is user-generated content. The games are user-generated. It's a game development platform. There's like 68 million games because people can make their own games.
Yeah, right.
And so the user-generated content is actually in and of itself also very dangerous. And you can't disable that because that's the game.
Right.
That is Roblox. Bagging on them specifically, because I actually I have like a very particular issue with how they do things. And so I like using them as an example.
Yeah. Geometry Dash, though, a more innocuous app where it's like, the 2-dimensional scrolling screen, and you have this little geometry figure that's jumping up and down, kind of like Mario.
Oh, okay.
Right, you have all these things, and he's bouncing off, so it's essentially like a scrolling world in Mario Brothers, right?
Okay.
But it's geometry, they're like tech music, user-generated worlds. So you get people that make these user-generated worlds and then go through them. And by the way, one of my sons, when they had iPads, loved making the worlds. So there was this aspect of it. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, he's legit programming these worlds.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This was his introduction into coding and building, which I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. Come to realize, though, that Roblox doesn't monitor the worlds that get built. They don't monitor, inputted pornography. They don't monitor connections to people. They don't monitor phone numbers. They don't monitor chats. They don't monitor any of that, or the friends that you can make on Geometry Dash.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, then it like all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, you can't play any Geometry Dash level that's user created.
Yeah.
It had to be something that was inherent to the company.
I played Roblox for an hour just to mess with it. I registered and told it I was 8. Firstly, it set my content restriction levels to medium. I told it I was born in April of 2017. And it started me off with medium, which was like blood, fear, crude humor, and something else. And then I connected it to a parent account. I wanted to see what the parental controls were like. So I applied all the parental controls. I turned the thing down to mild, which was the lowest one, which still had like blood, fear, and some other stuff. And I, with full parental control restrictions, I encountered the sexualization of young girls in a game called Dress to Impress, which is the number 2 game that comes up in this big box at the top of the screen when you first start playing. It's like one of the primary games they want you to play. I told it I was an 8-year-old boy. It turned me into a young girl wearing underwear where I could go dress up and then other people could vote on how good I look. Like, that's the game. And then I went to a game called, I think it was called Rob Mom. And it starts you off in a room, and there's a big sign on the wall that says, the richest person is so-and-so, like, go rob them. And then I walked down the street, and there was an Apple store and like a Subway sandwiches. And I went into the Apple store and robbed the Apple store employees. And then the cops came after me, and I shot the cops. And then I went into some neighborhood after that, and some character came along and picked me up and carried me into their house and then dressed up as a cop and then shot me in the back. I told it I was 8. Like, I was playing in some of these worlds that are not meant to be creepy worlds. Oh, and then I played a game called Public Bathroom. And I walked into this giant area where there's like a swimming pool with beds around the perimeter of the thing, with multiple people on the beds like humping each other. And then I walked into this like public bathroom thing where you can go in and out of the bathroom stalls together. And then the next room had bathtubs with a bunch of people in them together where you could close the what do you call it? Not the shade, the
slider door,
whatever, the cover, to like have privacy in the bathtub. And they're all like humping stuff in there. And like, I don't know, man. I have a hard, like these guys could, for example, offer a whitelist feature to parents the way that YouTube Kids does. They have a whitelist feature, which means that the parent can pre-select which content, which games, which stuff could be accessed. Like there's very basic things that Roblox is not doing, which I find very bothersome.
But that's because Roblox is not designed for children.
It's not. They say they are, but it's not.
Roblox is designed for predators and app companies.
Yeah.
Like that's one problem that people run into with Snapchat when they start understanding about like the anonymous chats and disappearing things and that it's like encryption all the way across. So even if you send something terrible, you're like a young person, you send something terrible, like Snapchat's like, hey, we're just a platform. We don't even have the evidence you're looking for.
Right.
People wonder, they're like, oh, these things aren't working. It's like, no, they're working perfectly and flawlessly.
Yeah, by design.
Because the predation capacity of Snapchat, the predation worlds that they create, that's a feature of the app. It's not an accident of the app. Everyone knows about it. It's an open secret. It's a feature of the app because your children are the product being sold to other children and predators. And when I say other children, one of the most horrific things about the predation world now is that kids prey on kids aggressively.
Yeah.
Like this is a really ridiculous example that I always bring up. But like when I was a kid, like 16, if I wanted to see one of my classmates like without her shirt on, right? Like I had to, oh my God, man, I had to come up with like a pickup line. I took a girl out to Taco Bell once. Like, that's how good at dating I was. But like, ultimately, it used to be, you had to have something to offer. Like you had to have, like I had to be somebody worthy of her attention, and girls should be hyper discriminatory with who they give their attention to. And even once I got her attention, like I had to engage in this long effort of making a relationship and building, and then like all of a sudden you have to get married and now you have 3 kids like me. Like that's the story of what happens, right? You got to go through all this stuff, right? To see a girl without her shirt on.
That's right.
And now all you have to do is make an anonymous account and tell the girl you like that you already have a naked picture of her, because there's like a 95% chance that one of those is floating around, and then you extort her and get a real naked picture of her.
Yeah.
And now you have an actual naked picture of this girl and you're like, got it.
Yeah.
And for younger people, I'm not saying I would have done that, but there are plenty of people who do that are, it's like you give a kid a Porsche 911 to learn how to drive on, and they cannot help themselves and they end up crashing, even though they know it's the wrong thing to do. But I'm like, come on, it's not that bad.
A lot of fun, man.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Roblox does not have these features by accident. It's a feature of the app. It's a marketing mechanism of the app. Our children are what make Roblox money for app companies and predators. That's it.
Yeah, they tried to sell me my 8-year-old profile. The first thing when you click on the little Robux button, the first big thing was $199. Luckily, one of the parental controls is you could set a spending limit. I set it to 0, and it didn't work. Okay, so security is best applied in layers. Security is never good if it's just one layer. So here's the layers. Lead by example, like behavior mirroring. How do your kids see you interacting with these addictive mechanisms and these things that are trying to take your attention? And how much attention do you give them, and how much attention do you give your kids? Number 2, for the tech that the kids do have, and especially for younger kids, you want to take a whitelist approach. So you use the platform's built-in tools. So Android has a thing called Family Link. iPhone has a thing called Screen Time. And those apply also on like the Chromebooks and the Macs. And you whitelist things, which means you only allow the very specific things that they should have access to. And if it includes a website, you whitelist the website. You add that to the allowed websites list. And as they get older, you can switch into a blacklist mode, which is where everything's allowed, but then you block certain things. But especially for younger kids, you take a whitelist approach. So you lead by example, you restrict their devices using the built-in functions, and then you can also configure those devices to be as boring as possible. So kind of like I was mentioning with my iPhone, like you turn the black and white screen on.
That's amazing how fast you're like, I don't even want to look at this.
Great. It makes photos less exciting. It makes everything less exciting.
Right.
You disable the camera. Kids should not have internet connected cameras. That is immensely dangerous. The sextortion problem would be much less of a problem for kids that don't have an internet connected camera. And you know what's kind of crazy, man, is all of the kid safe phones have freaking cameras. Like, and I'm angry in saying that because I do not, that is insane. Dude, photography is cool. I'm a photographer. I love photography. Kids should not have internet connected cameras. And
if I may, real fast.
Yeah.
There's a school district in the area. I was talking to the chief tech safety officer. They give out one-to-one devices to their kids. They have monitoring devices on these things.
Yeah.
And they caught a group of high schoolers doing unspeakable things on Google Meets. Okay, so an app that is absolutely on the computers. Nobody thinks anything about Google Meets. And these kids got together in a group setting with all the cameras turned on and were doing the worst of the worst with each other.
Yeah.
In a group setting, using school administered technology.
Yeah.
Now, the school knows, the district knows that this can happen.
Yeah.
Were the parents warned about it? No.
No. And dude, my kid, he's in 4th grade, and I found out that like, not only does he have access to a Chromebook at school, which I did not know, they registered a Google account for him that has his full name in the account name, and they have him type with his voice, which means that he's giving his voice print to Google. I didn't know that. I found that out by accident. And why are they having him type with his voice? Shouldn't he be learning how to type on the keyboard or writing with a pencil?
Or should he be at all? One of the interesting things when you talk to a lot of school tech people tech integration officers, all these things. They're like, well, we don't want 18-year-olds learning how to type. It's like, okay, that's fine. I learned how to type before 18. And like, I knew by the time I graduated, I could code in like 2 or 3 different languages. I had 3D Studio. Nice. I could 3D, really? Like I could do all these things off like a 486. Okay. Now, like, I didn't have a one-to-one device. So your articulation that they either learn how to type in 4th grade or they're going to be 18 and not know how to type, right. That's not fair. Like we had Miss Gilman in 8th grade who had tattooed makeup and like this thing. And she was like our computer teacher on like the Macs, right? Like we knew how to do that. So that doesn't fly. There's an emphasis of we have to have 100% integration and utilization with technology, or children won't be ready. I have 2 children right now that go to a no tech school. I have a 2nd grader and a 5th grader. Yeah. Okay. Are you telling me that they will be ill prepared for the world? Absolutely not. There's no way.
They'll be well prepared.
They will be. Now, how is that possible? How can we hold these 2 things in our head? They have no tech, and we believe they will be well prepared at the age of 18. How can we hold these 2 things in our head if we're being told by the entire public education system that we must integrate one-to-one technology with elementary school children and make accounts for them that Google knows about, the school knows about, the parents don't even know about? How can we have this?
It's problematic. And there's a federal agency called FERPA that's meant to, I think it was established in the 70s. Not an agency, I'm sorry. It's a piece of regulation. It's not an agency. It's meant to protect the data of kids. And I think it was set up in the 70s. And it doesn't have any, it doesn't do anything, right? Like it's the one piece that's supposed to like the Power School hack. You hear about that?
No, tell me about this one.
Power School is school administration software. So like, how do you look after your staff and your students and their names and their addresses and their phone numbers and their social security numbers?
There's also some medical information for some people on there, right?
Yes.
Because if you have IEPs and things of that nature, there we go.
All the things. So if you have special things, those are in there.
Yes.
So Power School didn't have 2-factor authentication set up for one of their customer service tools. And so a hacker was able to leverage that to access the Power School system and work their way into the database. And they stole the data of 62 million students and 9 million teachers.
I did hear about this. Yeah.
And that there's no, so a couple things, right?
A couple things.
Okay, so by default, people go, let me blame Power School. No, actually. Let me blame the customers of Power School for implementing a system that didn't require 2-factor authentication when they're supposed to be protecting the data of children. And it goes back to the incentive thing, right? So schools are incentivized to maintain their funding. And their funding is not threatened by data loss, as just demonstrated by the Power School hack. How many school administrators got fired? How many district IT people got fired? How many contracts got updated and changed or canceled or anything? 0, right? Like this is a full-blown failure on behalf of the customers of Power School for giving our kids data to a company that wasn't protecting it.
Right. And just to recognize precedents, let's say bus services. We have schools that contract with bus services, right? Bus contractors for transportation mechanisms. And there are requirements, very clear requirements of the employees of those contractors. Like I don't know all of them, but things like background checks and criminal histories and things of that nature. They're like, look, you can't have a felon driving my kid to school, right? Like things of that nature. So we have security protocol in place when we engage with a contracting mechanism when it deals with children. Yeah. So to your point, if all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have this big problem. It's like, you knew you had to check with this. You're taking care of my children. Yeah. You knew you should be careful with this stuff. We already require you to be careful in all these other areas.
And it goes back to like, okay, it shouldn't require an IT degree to be a parent. And you could say the same thing about being a school administrator or a teacher. However, there are IT needs, and those things are just not well looked after. Because I've been involved in lots of contracts for big software systems. One of the companies I used to work for, we spent $270 million a year with Microsoft alone. $270 million a year. And We had a contract that defined, we told them our requirements are as follows. We are a secure environment. I was working in like a government, like military environment. We're a secure environment. We require the following things, like, and we're going to audit you. And I would actually participate in those audits. And then they would either pass or fail. And if they failed, they had to correct the thing. And then if they corrected the thing, then we would buy their stuff and then we would install it. That's common. Like that's how IT contracts are formed. And the fact that there's school districts and contracts with government agencies that facilitate the administration of schools that aren't looking after, like, do you have two-factor authentication enforced on all your systems? Because that is the one thing that every IT person knows, that if you don't, you're going to get hacked. And they didn't, and they still don't. So I'm trying to be constructive in that, like, I find this also as a glaring opportunity for offering suggestions for how to do it better in the future. And how to do it better in the future is to have audit requirements that are security-based for the environments that are managing the data of our kids, so that parents can agree and be aware of what technology is involved and opt out if they so choose, and are aware, for example, so PowerSchool, a bunch of the student data profiles contain social security numbers because the schools ask the parents for the social security numbers, which implies that that's a requirement when in fact it is not. Right? So that's an easy one too. Let's mark the things that are optional so that if you don't want your social security number of your kid to be in there, because now all these kids their credit's screwed for life, right? Their stuff just got sold on the internet. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. You're not
getting another social security number, man.
No, you can't get a new serial number, right? So, so what do you do, right? So you avoid the algorithms, you lead by example, you make, if the kid has a piece of tech, you make it as boring as possible. And then also you keep adding layers. So not only stripping off the features like the camera and the black and white screen, and there's a thing called always on display. Do you have that on your phone where like, if it's sitting up, then like it'll show the time?
Oh, gotcha. No, I don't have that.
Right. So that's a good thing to turn off.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's literally just taking your attention. And then past that, something I like to talk about that I don't hear come up very often, is something from my network engineering background, which is called a DNS filter. This is a very effective way to filter your entire home network and every individual device, including your smart TVs, your kids' tablets, your kids' phones, everything. And so there's a popular one that I like and I use. It's called NextDNS. NEXT DNS. And the premise is that when your computer communicates with a system on the internet, it goes out to effectively the yellow pages on the internet and it goes, hey, I'm trying to find Minecraft.com. And I know that's not Minecraft's thing, but I'm trying to find Minecraft.com. What's the address for Minecraft? Because I want to go talk to it. And it goes, oh, okay, cool. It sends you back the address. It's a bunch of numbers. Or like your tech, it gives you an IP address. And then your computer, oh, cool. And then it establishes communication with that address and it starts changing data. And then you get the website and you can do the things.
You can know all the things.
Yeah. So if you put a DNS filter in place, that intercepts, that becomes your yellow pages. And if you go, hey, you know what? I don't want Minecraft.com. It will return zeros as the address and then it breaks. And then that's the end of that. So if you don't want your house being a YouTube house, or you don't want your house being a Facebook house or an Instagram house, or you don't want individual devices like your kid's laptop or their school Chromebook or their phone to have access to certain things, this is a wonderful additional layer because security is best done in layers. And a DNS filter is a wonderful, very effective layer. And then you get analytics too. You can actually see retroactively what all was blocked and what was filtered. And you can see all the things. And you can block ads and you can block trackers and you can do things that are very privacy preserving. And so it's wonderful. Like at my house, like my robot vacuum can't talk to the internet, but it can clean my house. My thermostat can run my furnace, but it can't talk to the internet. Even though it wants to, it can't.
Oh, it's dying to.
Yeah.
It's dying.
Like, come on, man, let me give it,
Yeah.
And so that's the like kind of relatively shortly packaged version of like, what do you do? Right. So it starts with us as parents and how do we behave and what do we do? Do we turn off our notifications? Do we stare at our phone at the dinner table? And so I like to say, so we like you do the thing Saturday night to Sunday night. We do the thing on Sundays. There's even like a more bite-sized thing that I've seen, the Tech Free Tuesday, where at the end of the day on Tuesday, everybody comes home from school, everybody comes home from work, and then they just put their stuff in a drawer. Like you walk in the door, the phone goes in there, and then you don't look at it until the next morning.
And there's something about when I drop my phone off to this point, when I drop my phone off, if I put it in my office and I know it's just down the hall in the office, there's a different experience, or I have to walk by it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's on the counter and it's just staring at me. It's just looking at me.
Come on, man. Come on. Look
I have a far different experience than if it's in the garage. I can't see it. It's not excited. Like I got to open a door to get to it. All of these things. It's like, there's just a different experience. I could leave it in my car. That'd be even better. It's not even in the house.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot to it. And if I may, to add one onto your list, just an overall umbrella of there is no such thing as safe tech. Okay. And the reason I bring this up is because whatever filtration or monitoring devices people have, like kids blow past.
They can be overcome.
They can be overcome.
And there's always the friend's house.
There's always a friend's house. There's always like a burner phone. There's always stealing internet from your neighbor, right? You have a certain Wi-Fi that has the filters. Okay. Well, guess what? The neighbor doesn't.
That's
like,
right.
I just need to, you have a lot of things like that. There's at the site that we were working with the state of Idaho on called fortifyyourkids.com. There's a video up where SRO Gomez, my partner, he got this video. This mom sent him a video, and she was like, I think it's like a 7-year-old and his older brother who's 9. They were able to go from ABC Mouse, so a very simple whitelist, ABC Mouse to unfiltered YouTube through the ABC Mouse app. And we turned off the voices of the kids, but we show the video where they're like hitting all these, and it's like a 15-step process that these kids figured out.
Yeah.
But if you turn on the audio to that video, you hear the little kids going like, and then I hit this and this. It's like, these are children. These are little babies, right?
Brilliant little
that
kids.
Figured out, going through all of these steps, how to get to YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And unfiltered YouTube because they didn't have filters. So the idea that it's like, I can get just the right app, just the right filter, just the right set of things. It's like, maybe you can get really close, and close is great.
Yeah.
Right. Like seatbelts are not a guarantee of safety in a car, but it's a lot closer.
That's
right. It's way better than no seatbelt, but that doesn't mean cars are safe.
Yeah.
Right. That
That's
doesn't mean
analogy.
tech is safe.
It's a great analogy because these filters are like seatbelts.
Yes.
Like it has nothing to do with getting in a wreck. Like whether or not you get in an accident, the seatbelt doesn't make it not happen. But if it happens, it's an extra thing.
It's an extra thing. And in fact, if you look up the DMV, to you, an interesting contrary point, the primary purpose of a seatbelt is actually to help somebody maintain control of the vehicle. That's what they say, because if you make a hard right turn or left turn, you'll fall left and right. That's why race cars, it's like
fall out.
That's right. So the race car guys have 5-point harnesses so they can control the vehicle under G forces, right? And they can maintain. Anyway, there was a thing I got in this hot argument with one of my siblings back in the day because when I was going through this DMV course, I was like, it's to keep you safe in a crash. And they're like, no, man, you won't maintain control of your vehicle if you turn and you fall out of your seat. I'm like, oh, snap.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So again, and filters very similarly, they help you navigate. It's not even in the crash. They're going to help you steer and navigate more effectively.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't get in that.
That's right. And I think security also, if you look at take security cameras, right?
Right.
Some people by default think that if you put cameras up that you will prevent crime. Now, granted, there is an element of that where if somebody, deterrent. But actually, they're primarily used as a retroactive investigation tool. And so the filters are, there's the layers you put in place are similar, but that's why you need many layers. And that's why that it starts with the behavior of the parents. And the behavior of the parents can also include, I find that a lot of parenting for me is expectation setting. What do I expect of you as my child? And how will we know if you have achieved or met that expectation? And how do we put positivity around that? And so, for example, I have a family tech agreement contract thing on my website that people can download and customize. It comes with some suggested stuff, and you can just change it to match your family's needs. But so that as you expose your kids to tech, you can go, here's the expectations that go along with that.
Right.
And then it facilitates the conversation because it's like you got to talk to your kids about sex at some point. this is now one of those things. You have to talk to them about tech and the pros and the cons and the dangers. And what's been really rewarding about what I've been doing with the family IT guy is I get feedback from people where they go, dude, I showed my kid your video on Roblox, or I showed my kid your thing where you talked about the dangers of such and such. And then we watched it together and we got to talk about it. And my 7-year-old kid was like nodding his head and going like, oh yeah, you know, like actually like starting to pick up on this stuff. And then you can have these ongoing conversations. I found out recently, there's, speaking of going to the park, some lady at the park has been calling my son.
What?
An adult has been calling him for a lot, like met him at the dog park a year or more ago and is like, leaves him voicemails.
This is a grown woman?
A grown woman.
Calling your 9-year-old son.
My 9-year-old. And here's the thing. When you turn on the features to restrict phone calls and text messages with Apple Screen Time or with Google Family Link, because you can say, I only want to allow phone calls and text messages from this predefined list of numbers, right? Family members, whatever. So we have that in place. He can only communicate with family. And so he can't have a phone call with her, but it does let her leave voicemails.
Oh my God.
And so he told us, hey, so-and-so, I almost said her name. I don't want to, you know, it's not fair.
Yeah, let's out her. Susan.
Yeah. Here's her
not
address
Susan.
and the type of dog she has. So-and-so left me a voicemail, and he was saying, it's like, wow. And we're just, my wife and I are like, what? And so I would like to highlight here another thing now is like, so what do you do when that happens?
Wait. So what was the voicemail? Did you listen to this?
When are you going to come back to the dog park? I want to hang out, you know, hey, how's it going? Like she wants to, like it's posing, and I don't know, like where she's at mentally, whatever. Like maybe she wants to be, like she thinks she wants to be friends with my kid or something. But no, no, because on its face, that's just, there's something just deeply wrong with
There
that.
are so many things wrong with this. There are so many things wrong with this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. So what did you do? Because again, the best practices when you're touched by something like this are really crucial.
Yes. So there's two things that come up, and this applies. I think it's really apt to consider this in the framing of also bullying that occurs via text messages and things. First thing is that the cell phone carrier. So when you block the contact thing through the phone, it allows the voicemails. Cell phone carriers, you can block numbers through the cell phone carrier, and they block it altogether. No more voicemails, right? The connection cannot take place. And the other thing is that kids, so as adults, changing our phone numbers is like a massive pain. I've had the same phone number forever.
Sure.
I do not want to change my phone number.
I'm still a 510 that I got when I was like 21.
Right? And mine is probably the same.
I'm holding on to that bad
Yeah,
boy.
man.
It's part of me.
And we live in Idaho, and we have California phone numbers.
Right.
And like,
I'm
that
the
whole thing.
worst. I'm the worst. I'm a terrible person. But like, come on, man.
And so
we should make everybody who like criticizes us but have a 208 phone number change it to something else. Be like, fine, you change your number. You change, go ahead. It's not mine. It's not my affair.
Enjoy.
Yeah, right.
But you can change your kid's number with like no negative effects.
Sure.
Who cares? There's just 6 people that are going to call him, or that should be calling him anyways. And so like it got me thinking. I hate talking about this stuff, man, but it's topical. It is the conversation. There was a girl in Virginia recently that committed suicide from bullying because she couldn't escape the bullying because she had a phone, and her parents they gave an interview to a news media thing, and there's an article about it. And her mom said that the one thing that she would like to express to other parents is to check your kids' text messages and to check their messages to see what's going on. And that got me to thinking that like, that's why it's so important to raise awareness around you can restrict who they can communicate with by restricting the apps that they have access to. And when it comes down to just text messages, restricting who can actually text message them. And if the bully's trying to follow them and is leaving voicemails and stuff, either block the bully's number through the cell phone carrier or the Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever, or just change the kid's number. You change your kid's number because you can change a kid, like who cares, right? Change it easy. And that's like I'm so sensitive to the fact that that's like such an easy answer to such an awful thing. It's not, you know what I mean? It's like, I hesitate to even make it sound like, oh, just do this and just do this. Cause the bully will still be at school, but at least they can't be in your kid's bedroom with them at night, you know? And so like the woman trying to call my son, and then the bully that got this poor girl to kill herself is, you can take technical maneuvers, but I'm so appreciative and so grateful that my son has a relationship with us where he brought it up. And so there's that too, of like maintaining the conversation and like the ongoing communication around these things that, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was driving my 7th grader to school. I think this was in the fall, and relationship, right? Like I'm close to my family. I'm close to my boys. And I have good children, right? Yeah. I'm a terrible person, but I lucked out with my kids, and
they can learn what not to do.
Yeah, right. And my son, you know, we're driving to school, and it's like this chill time with him where it's like he's not around his brothers, it's just me and him, and he's like, "Dad, cool. I got to tell you something." And I was like, "Oh boy!" I was like, "Yeah, bud, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, on my school computer," and I was like, "Oh God, here it comes!" And he's like, "I've been watching some Star Wars videos that I shouldn't be watching." And I was like, "What? Okay, back up. What do you mean?" And so what he, you know, people show him, because everybody shows everybody how to get past all the monitoring devices. So he pulls out his Chromebook. I'm like, "Okay, what are you talking about?" Pulls out a school administered Chromebook, and we hotspot it to my phone instantaneously, right? So boom, because by the way, they're like, "Oh, we have these, you know, filters at the school internet." It's like, you don't have filters off the hotspots. You're not on
the device,
or on the, yeah, like, dude. Yeah. So, okay. So he has this filter. Yeah. So they have the Go Guardian filter in his school district.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So he pulls up, you know, the browser, and he goes to YouTube, and he tries to put in a Star Wars video, like not like a porn Star Wars, but like a real Star Wars video, and it blurs it out. It's like, you can't watch this. And I was like, all right, it looks like it works.
Okay.
But again, I knew, so copies, use like watch, copies the URL, opens PowerPoint, goes to insert URL, inserts the URL, starts playing instantly. Right. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, right. And like, I'm like, my son is bright, fine. He's not like, I don't let him mess with his computer all the time. Like people just show him how to do this, and then he just uses it for whatever, you know. And it was that relationship where I was like, okay, thank you for telling me you're not in trouble. Please don't do this. Right. Cause like, and he's like, okay, great. You know, understood. But it's that kind of thing. You got to have the relationship where, you know, assume your kid is faced with the most horrific, shameful, terrible thing. You got to have a relationship where they're going to come to you.
Yeah.
Because like this gal, you know, that took her life, there are recorded instances of literally like under 20 minutes from contact to suicide with teens. Whoa. Where somebody gets a hold of them and is able within like a 5 to 10 minute period to extract compromising media from them. Extortion starts instantly, kid panics, horrible things, and they panic, and that's it. And they take their own lives. Like 20 minutes. And these are recorded instances where we know young people panic in this manner. And we know here's a horrific, terrible, instantaneous scam with anonymous people online. Hey, how are you? Oh, I'm great. I'm a 5th grade girl, or I'm a 6th grade girl, or 7th grade girl. Oh, awesome. Like, I actually go to a school near you. Oh, that's super cool. Where do you go? Oh, I go to this school. Where do you go? Oh, I go to this school. I'm like, oh yeah, my brother has a little friend whose sister goes. Do you have a brother? Oh yeah, I got a little brother. Like, oh, where's he go? Oh, he goes to this elementary school. Like, oh, awesome. Like, maybe my brother knows him. Like, what's your brother's name? Like, oh, my brother's name is Jack, goes to this school. Great. Here's the deal. Turn on your camera right now and take off your shirt and take a picture, or I'm going to show up to Jack's school tomorrow and kill him. You have 30 seconds. And if
that's
you're,
a thing. You heard, that's like a thing.
These are scam. Yeah. This is one of the, these are one of the again, SRO Gomez shares these things with me, and he really relates it. It's like, it's a magic trick. Like, you can get people to believe and act in ways that you would never think.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of the anonymous chat. That's the nature of, you know, roadblocks. You don't know who you're chatting with. That's right. And people have ironed out mechanisms of communication, of emotional hooks, of whatever it might be. and they can get our children to do anything.
Yeah.
And we are giving our children to those people when we allow them to engage in these systems.
Yeah. Yeah. I think exposing kids to like Earth scale populations of strangers is, it's just at that point, it's a numbers game. It's a big, big numbers game.
It's a losing game.
Yeah.
The house is going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that, those are my general thoughts on, to focus on the addictive algorithms and to focus on the anonymous stranger contact. Because I think when you knock those two out by just not having games that have anonymous stranger contact and by not having social media, you're so much better off, because those are the two things that correlate to the suicide statistics and to the extortion statistics and all that. You eliminate those things, and then you can work. Then there's nuance and there's more details.
Yeah.
But I just want to offer that to parents that, like, yes, there's a million things to think of, but just start with those two.
Right. And if you're anxious after this conversation, like right now, if people are like, oh my God, what do I do? Here's one real fast thing that you can realize real fast. If you go home tonight and you take your, collect all the cell phones. There's still technology everywhere, by the way. Doesn't matter.
Right.
But,
Right.
iPads, computers.
That's a whole other.
No, but
that's back to my NSA, days.
Right. You take everybody's cell phone, kill your internet. Okay. And then ask your kid to get a hold of his grandparent. Okay. You have his phone. The internet's gone. If your kid cannot reach a loved one, then nobody's getting your kid.
Oh, right. Because it can't go the other way.
They can't go the other way.
Yeah.
So it's like, hang on, you can start taking, and so again, full stop and then work things back in, right? It's like, okay, so I can stop this. It's not like it's everywhere and I can't do, no. You can stop it tonight, right now. They won't be able to reach anyone. Nobody will be able to reach them. Okay, great. Now let's work these things back in, right? Let's integrate technology in common spaces. Let's integrate laptops where the kid's back is always to you, so you can always see the screen.
So key, man.
Like, let's turn off cameras. Let's start setting up filters. Let's have our internet on a timer so it kills itself at 9:00.
Yeah.
Right? Because who really needs internet after 9? You want to watch Netflix or something? Fine. Hotspot the TV to your phone because you're the adult, but nobody else gets the hotspot password.
Right.
Like, we can do all of these things. I have a good friend, very good friend, who had a kid who had a learning disability, lower IQ. Okay. And he developed this addiction to pornography at like 17, 18. Now, this is a kid, as she described, she's like, it's kind of like Forrest Gump. Like he was spelling it boobs as bobs. Like, he didn't even have the double O.
Right.
Okay. She's like, so we found this out. We realized this, and we like took real steps to restrict things. He got past no tech and router restrictions. Okay, somebody gave him a burner phone, a burner piece of technology, and he, with an IQ of around 80, figured out a way around all the filtering and buffers with the Wi-Fi, and they still caught him on it. They're like, what? Like, so again, these are really complex things. You gotta have many layers of protection. You have to figure out what your task is, what the goal is. Do you want to wipe all of it out? Do you want to have some functionality?
Yeah.
What level of functionality? Who are you dealing with? Like, all of these different things. But just start with, hey, you can stop it tonight. Take a deep breath. And then start working things back in. Yeah,
and like change. One of the things that I've learned through my career by being in the IT business and software business is that people do not like change.
Right.
People are very afraid of change. They do not like it.
Right.
And so you can approach change in bite-sized chunks. So if like your current scenario is that your household is such that your kids are accustomed to having access to technology, and the adults are accustomed to have access to technology. Well, the first bite-sized change could simply be restricting your own access and like changing your own behavior. Do it for 20 minutes. Do it for 20 minutes today. Like anytime I give a lecture, I go, okay, everybody, the lecture is just about over. This is the last slide. When I hit the end slide button and I say goodbye, we're all going to stand up and take your phones and go like that. Every single one, right? We're all accustomed to doing that. So here's an opportunity and I'll offer this to the viewers of this show, to not do that after this.
Right.
Put it in your bag, and then on the way home or on the way to your next destination, keep it in the bag. And when you get home, see if you can like throw it in a drawer or, just, you know, but 20 minutes at a time, an hour at a time, once a week, twice a week, try, you know, titrate, approach change in ways that is doable. Some people go cold turkey. I'm kind of an extreme guy. Like sometimes I got to go cold turkey on stuff. Sure. And that's what I did with my stuff. It's like, I'm just no more. And so it's been some years now, just like I just cut it off.
Yeah, right.
But realistically, for most people, bite-sized change and start with yourself.
Yeah, there's I'd offer another one. See if you can engage on your phone without your kids seeing you. Right. So for instance, I'm in you know, like I go places with my kids. I treat it like I'm going to the bathroom. Like I go into another room. I do what I got to do.
Yeah.
I put it down and I come back out.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more. My oldest son, he has a phone. It's not a smartphone. He can't do a bunch of things. He can text with it. You know, it's got a screen, but it's not camera the whole bit, right?
Like a more like dumb phone kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I can't remember the exact brand. My wife got it, and we obviously are on the same page. And she was like, "Look, this is one we're working," and it's been very good. But there is nothing that I got more disgusted with my 13-year-old than when I saw him standing in the middle of the hallway, like mid-step, doing this. And he was texting his grandfather. It's not like he was doing anything terrible, but just standing like a frozen person, staring at this. And it's like, okay, I know that they see me doing that at times. That's not good. So treat it like something you're like, look, it's okay that I do this, but this is a private thing.
Yeah.
Right. And start having them see you function in the world in a different way.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a beautiful
little things
thing,
like
man.
that.
That is so impactful. And when your kid goes, "Hey, Dad," you're already there. You don't have to come back. You don't have to go, "Oh, huh? What?" You know, that change right there. That's how you know you're doing it right.
Right.
Is when you don't have to come back. You're already there. Like, I love that. It's the most beautiful concept that like makes my heart warm.
Yeah.
Is when you're already there.
Ben, listen to me, man. I have so enjoyed this. I would love it if you come back. We keep talking about these things. Obviously, there are always developing legislative pieces and technology pieces and issues that come up. Family IT guy, you're here to help families that want to reach out and have some coaching and have some real help with this.
Yeah.
It's a really valuable tool. Again, familyitguy.com, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Please come back. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'd love to.
All right, awesome.